Hey folks, it's Bad Brad Berkwitt, and this is another Ringside Report post-fight wrap-up show that Deb and I covered last night at the National Guard in Hammond, Indiana. Now, the promoter for the boxing event was Knockout Kings. Now, before I get into the results, I got to tell you folks, in all my years, forget about it, of covering boxing, that armory was the hottest Mickey Ficky I have ever been in. I'm talking about, folks, how hot was it, you say? I came in there as the light heavyweight champion of the world, and by the end of the night, I was the super middleweight champion of the world because that's how much I sweated my ass off. It was insane in the membrane, and if you know the reference, you are as old as I am, folks. But hey, on that note, let's get into the post-fight wrap-up results. The opening bout pitted Derrick Coleman versus Norfleet Stitz. This was a super welterweight bout. Now, that fight was stopped by the referee in round 2 at 2 minutes and 19 seconds with your winner, Derrick Coleman. Now, he was taking a lot of punches, Norfleet, but it was kind of a premature stoppage. But in all fairness, he didn't really have a chance of winning. So, hey, why take an extra beating if you don't have to? He had a bloody nose, Norfleet did, and Derrick Coleman, Deb turned to me and she was absolutely right. He looks a lot like Jarrett Hurd, or you could say one of the Charlo brothers, but more Jarrett Hurd. Okay? So again, that fight was stopped at 2:19 in the second round with your winner, Derrick Coleman. Next up was super lightweights, pitted Kevin Taylor Mangone versus Noel Rodriguez. And that fight went to the scorecards. It was a unanimous decision win for Mangone. Scores were 40-36 across the board, which I had the same. Young man did what he needed to do. There's some things he needs to improve on. He needs to keep his hands up. That's definite. But I got to tell you something. Noel Rodriguez was obviously brought in as an opponent. And I always talk about this in my forum, and I talk about it on my shows. No fighter, no matter what their skill level is, whether it's here or all the way up here, whether you're Floyd Mayweather or whether you're a Noel Rodriguez, no fighter is a bum. None. And one thing I could say about this card, all the opponents that came in were there to win. Whether they won or not, that's another story. But they are not bums, okay? So again, that was 40-36 unanimous decision for Mangone. He's got a couple things he needs to work on, like I said, keeping his hands up. He got the rounds in, and he did what he needed to do. Next up, in the featherweight division, you had Christian Williams versus Christopher Nelson. Now, I will tell you something. Christopher Nelson was an interesting character, to say the least. He was a little bit praying mantis. He was a little bit Bruce Lee. And he was a little bit boxer. He was all wrapped in one. He was a cutie. I'm telling you, he was cute in there. He was doing his thing. He was having a good time. Now, Christian Williams obviously was the fan favorite and was the person that was supposed to win the fight. And in the end, he wound up winning the fight by a 40-36 decision, which means unanimous decision on all the judges' scorecards, 4 rounds to nothing. It was a 4-rounder. But I must tell you, I think that Christian struggled in that fight. I think he won the fight. Now, here's the interesting thing. He won every round, but he was frustrated by this guy because he was a real cutie pie, this Christopher Nelson. And he came from angles. He was all over the place. Wasn't a big puncher, but he threw Williams off his game. And Williams didn't throw his hands enough. And I think he didn't throw his hands enough because Nelson was such a cutie pie in there with the way he was moving. Like I said, praying mantis, Bruce Lee, and boxer all wrapped in one. I think Williams is a better fighter than he looked in that particular fight, but he did what he needed to do and he won. Okay? Now, your main event of the night pitted the grave digger, Dajuan Johnson versus Jonathan Fortuna from the Dominican Republic. And that was in the welterweight division, 147 pounds. Now, Johnson had a very big following there. So when he came in, he looked a little like Deontay Wilder with the mask on and all. I think Deontay Windmill Wilder, you started a trend, my man. You got all these guys wearing a mask now and all this stuff, kind of like you do. Hey, it's great. It's great theater. As we know, boxing is the theater of the unknown. Good fight. Good fight. Back and forth action. Now, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the second round. From my angle, it looked like Johnson caught Fortuna in the back of the head with a shot that the referee didn't see, but it dropped him and it had him his equilibrium completely off. I don't think it was an intentional dirty punch. I think Fortuna was turning, and Johnson caught him in the back of the head, and he went down. Now, from that point on, Johnson pretty much dominated, but Fortuna was in the fight. But in the third round, he was taking punches, and Fortuna pulled a very dirty thing when he pulled a, what the heck is the guy's name? I can't think of the fighter now that fought Floyd Mayweather Jr. It totally slipped my mind. I cannot think of his name. But he Victor Ortiz, there it is. Victor purposely headbutted Floyd, and Floyd knocked him to bleep out for it. Protect yourself at all times. He caught him, and he knocked him out. Now, Johnson was a little bit stunned by that because I saw it from my angle. He lifted his head up, man. He seriously headbutted him on purpose, and the referee took a point from him. It was shortly thereafter, I think it was thereafter in that round, Fortuna's corner threw the towel, and so your winner was Johnson by corner stoppage in the third round. Okay, so he had 4 bouts. The one bout that was scheduled was canceled, so he had 4 bouts in all. All the opponents, like I said again, came to fight, and you can't ask for more than that. Other than the freaking heat, it was a very good night of fights. It was enjoyable. I did enjoy the fights. I just didn't enjoy the heat. So to knock out kings, man, you need to put some freaking fans around the fans and stuff, because, man, we were dying. Like I said, light heavyweight champion of the world at the beginning of the night, super middleweight champion at the end of the night. But now I need to pick my fight of the night and my fighter of the night. So the Ringside Report fight of the night goes to, drum roll, Dajuan Johnson versus Jonathan Fortuna. That was the fight of the night. And fighter of the night also goes to the Gravedigger, Dajuan Johnson. Again, good job. So there is your post-fight wrap-up again from the National Guard Armory in Hammond, Indiana. Knockout Kings was the promoter. And I'm going to say this as I do with all the local club fights that I've covered over the years. Folks, come out and support your local fighters when they're here. So when they're up here, you could say you were here and you took the elevator all the way up to the top. Don't be fair weather fans. Support them here as they move up, okay? Now, at the end of the show, we're going to have some fight footage that Debbie D2 Edwards shot of the Dajuan Johnson versus Jonathan Fortuna fight. So don't turn the show off, all right? Now, remember to hit that button in whatever corner it is and subscribe to the Ringside Report web TV channel. I greatly appreciate it. As of right now, we have 1,290 subscribers. And when we hit 1,500, I'm looking off camera. That's such a no-no. 1,500 subscribers, I'm going to give away this book, Off the Ropes, the Ron Lyle story, written by the late Candace Toff. Ron Lyle was a fantastic heavyweight of the 70s and early 80s. 1,500 subscribers will give this book away. All right? That's another post-fight wrap-up in the can. Forget about it. And as Frank Sinatra sang so eloquently, so long ago, the best is yet to come. Bad Brad out.
194. It's right there. Right down the right.